Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Getting Ready to Feed the Horses portion of my podcast. My name is Corrina, and I'm coming to you from the Pacific Northwest, where I live with my partner, our two kitties, and the two horses I'm going to go out to feed. So, I have a little bit of a journey this morning. See if I can balance all of this. I am going to take out the compost and turn you around so we can go out the back door. It is Friday, September 6th. It is about 8 a.m. I am getting a late start feeding the horses because my trainer's coming at about 9:30 to help me with Bragi, and I wanted to kind of set them up for being separated for a while. The light turns off and I can't tell whether the camera's still going, so I have to check my phone for that. Yep, looks like we're still going. Okay, so it is going to be warm again today. It was about 87 yesterday, and I think it's supposed to get up to 85 today. So that's very warm for this time of year. Hasn't been bad, having a little blast of summer. I hope that helps my tomatoes a little bit. I probably am going to pause this when I actually dump the compost because I don't think I have enough hands to do everything. So stand by. Okay, I think I'm back in business again. So these are my compost bins. They are critter proof for the most part. I haven't had a bear try to get into them, but I don't think bears come to this close to the house, quite honestly. So, as I was saying, my trainer's coming. I gave the boys extra food last night so that they would not be too upset by a late feeding this morning. Today's my day off. It is Friday. I work 4/10s. I commuted down south 2 days this week. It was a 3-day work week for me because Monday was Labor Day. Oh. That was a big bird that just flew off. I think it might have been an owl. I heard an owl this morning. Anyway, so I am getting ready, sort of on my mind, to leave for vacation next week, next Thursday, so I need to pack and figure out what knitting I'm going to take, of course. Speaking of knitting, I have no finished objects for you today, several works in progress, and a gauge swatch I'm knitting for a garment that I test knit last year, I think, and it didn't really work out that well, so trying a different yarn, which is why I'm knitting a gauge swatch. Oh, say hello to Bragi. Good morning, Bragi. Good morning, Odin. So I'm knitting a gauge swatch, trying a different yarn. I don't usually knit gauge swatches, but I think it's necessary since this is yarn I'm repurposing from something I ripped out quite a while ago. So I don't remember what the yarn is exactly, hence the gauge swatch. Before I get to feeding, I'd like to share the lovely load of hay, the expensive load of hay I got on Monday. It's Timothy. It's from Eastern Washington, 3-string bales. And then there's the local hay that, if you've been here before, you saw me unload in July. So I'm going to get feeding the horses. Hi everyone. Welcome to the knitting portion of my podcast. I should call this the knitting and philosophizing part of my podcast because that's generally what I do. And just on that note, I kind of want to talk about why I started this podcast. I think it's been 2 years now in the first place, and I'll get to that. But first, let's talk about knitting. I do want to say, if you're new here, welcome. I hope you enjoy this content. yeah, in the philosophizing part, I will talk about the content, why I made the content the way it is, and I hope you enjoy it. And if you're a returning viewer, as always, thank you and welcome back. So, what I'm wearing. I thought I would show you these socks that I've been wearing. These came from the Lane book, 52 Weeks of Socks. So it's been a little bit cool in the morning. So even though I'm wearing a t-shirt and kind of shorts, and happen to be barefoot at the moment, in the mornings it's been cool enough that I like to wear socks. So this could be a longish episode if my batteries stay charged. I hope you have something nice to drink. I have a cup of mint tea and maybe a project to work on. That's what I do when I watch podcasts, as I work on my projects. Speaking of projects, let me show you an almost finished object. I probably will have this finished by next Friday. I won't do a podcast next Friday because I will be in the Midwest visiting my mom and my sister. But maybe I'll have some footage that I can share the following week. So this is a cowl that I got. I call legacy yarn. This is from someone else's stash. And it's a very simple pattern, mostly a ribbed pattern. So basically I'm done with the ribbing part and then need to do this edging. It's a repeat. Let me see if I can show this of this edging, which is a different kind of ribbing. So the yarn is an acrylic wool blend. The kit came with a pattern. So Ella Ray. I don't know if this is a free or a paid for pattern or even where it came from. So I assume the pattern just came with the kit. It's 2016 knitting, copyrighted by Knitting Fever. So hopefully I didn't give too much away on that. And if I did, I apologize, and please respect this designer's wishes. So this is the yarn. I'm on the second ball of yarn. So very pretty. I'm enjoying this a lot. This will definitely go in my fall wardrobe. So I am a little bit in a hurry to get things off my needles because October seems to be the knit-along month, and I am doing 2 cowl knit-alongs. One with Telly Bean Knits. She has a Halloween mystery cowl, which I'm looking forward to very much. I did it last year and really enjoyed the shape of the cowl. And I think it's going to be the same shape. And it was a color work pattern last year, and I believe it is going to be color work again this year. The other knit along I'm doing in October is Sockoween with the Bakery Bears. I think there's a pattern that goes with that. My yarn isn't necessarily Halloween yarn. I'm knitting with Freckled Whimsey self-striping, a DK weight yarn, which I don't usually do. I typically knit with fingering weight yarn. And then the third knit along is also a cowl. It's an octopus themed cowl, and it is, we do know that much, those of us who are participating, and I can't remember the details, but I will try to put them in the show notes if you are interested. This bag, made by my mom, a simple drawstring brag that I really like. The fabric came from a quilt store in Sturgeon Bay, Wisconsin, where we visited last year. So that's up in Door County, and they are well known for their cherries. I did make some progress on this. So part of this, I'm also thinking about what knitting I am going to take while I travel. Another bag made by my mom. This is a much more complex bag, quilted, lined. It has a pocket and a zipper. I love the dragonfly fabric. So these are my scrappy socks. I will likely take these. So as you can see, I have got as far as the heel flap on this sock. So I am probably going to take these. The intent of these was just to knit these on Scrappy Sunday, but since, like I said, I'm a little bit of a rush to get stuff off my needles this month, I will take these socks along and finish them, hopefully finish them or get close to finishing them. I'm using the All Is Calm pattern by Kay Jones. The cuff, this little like color, pop of color here is Kay the Crazy Sock Lady. So that's a scrap. This is a scrap. And then all of this is leftover Freckled Whimsey yarn. And this is a row 1 mini. So let me show that yarn. So here is the row 1 mini. Keep showing it to my phone because that's how I'm monitoring my video camera. Here is the leftover Freckled Whimsey yarn. This is, I think I knit Kay Jones, the Fairground socks from this pattern. And then this is part of the cuff, so leftover mini, and then a little tiny piece. This is where the pop of color came on, so the cast on, and then I think one or two rounds from this color. And this is, I think it might be a Polka Dot Creek mini set that I got last year for Halloween. So fun stuff. And these are kind of, I don't know, these socks to me are kind of a blend of fall and summer. So I'll take those along. Chogu red lace, size 0. Use magic loop, 32-inch cord, and I usually knit the smallest size, so like 56 to 60 stitches cast on. Let me talk about this project that I have been working on. So this is a project for Randy, another bag made by my mom. Yeah. Horse fabric, another very simple drawstring bag. These are the Chili Podsters. It's a pair of fingerless mitts. I believe this was a free pattern. So I have finished the fingers on the first mitt. There's a lot of strings, and I am going to start the thumb. So this is the right-hand glove. I believe this yarn here is for the flap that goes over, kind of mark where the flap goes. So I'm using Chogu red lace. I believe these are US size 3 needles, and I'm using Ultra Alpaca yarn by Barocco. So here you go. Here's the label. Kind of a charcoal color gray. Nice soft yarn, fun to work with, easy to work with. So I will probably take these along as well to make some significant project. Again, these are for my partner Randy that I promised to make for him for his birthday, which was in April. And it's not that I have to finish them by his birthday, it's that I at least need to let him know what the gift is going to be eventually. So those are 3 whips. Here's the 4th whip. This is a bag. This is a canvas grocery bag from the city of Thousand Oaks when I worked for the Park Service many years ago in the early 2000s before I went to graduate school. So the Park Service headquarters at the unit I was working for was based out of Thousand Oaks. This is my Neigh sweater by Caitlin Hunter. Can you see the horses? Super fun. This has been really fun. So I'm about halfway through the color work chart. I'll show you this side. It might be a little bit easier to see on this side. So maybe if I straighten out the ribbing, that will help. How's that? How does that look? Yeah, this has been really fun. So this is a superwash merino by Knit Picks in heather gray or something like that. It's DK Squirrel Heather. The color work is this fancy spin cycle yarn that is supposed to be worsted weight, but the yardage tells me that it's more of knits like a DK. And then this yarn is a Barocco leftover yarn from the rye sweater I made. And it is also alpaca. So 100 grams is 200 yards. So I think this is also a DK weight. They all are slightly different, but I don't think it's going to matter for this sweater. I'm planning for this sweater to be a little bit oversized. I did not knit a gauge swatch. I typically don't. That has, yes, come back to haunt me occasionally, but usually it doesn't. So usually I do a gauge swatch, don't like what the fabric is, so I do another one, knit it, and then it's too big. So I don't know. However, on my walk out to the barn, you heard me talking about a gauge swatch. I am knitting a gauge swatch because I don't know, I might know what this yarn is. This is repurposed yarn from a project I tore out. I don't even remember what the project was. It is a Barocco Comfort DK. It is a sport weight, probably the correct weight of yarn for the project. I am using, that is an unadulterated ball of yarn. I am using up this bag of yarn. Like I said, I don't even remember what the project was, but apparently I didn't like it and didn't finish it. So the pattern that I alluded to is a pattern by, and I did a test knit last year for this pattern. It's by, if you're familiar with the Seedling Stitch podcast, I did the test. And I made it way too big. I did a gauge. That was a classic example of where a gauge swatch did not work for me. So this is called the Vine Tee. No, it's not a tee. It's a tank. And it has a really, here it is. Here is a picture of it. So it just ended up being so big that like two of me could have fit in it, in the yarn and the needles I was using. So I thought I would go back to trying a gauge swatch and see if I can make it work. So I'm not very far on it yet, but I may take this project too after I finish the gauge swatch and just take some of that scrap yarn with. So these are, here's my gauge swatch so far. It's just a stockinette stitch. I'm not sure I love this fabric. It's a little bit airy, I think. I mean, it's transparent. So these are Chagu Red Lace size 4. So US size 4, so 3.5 millimeter. It might be better if I go down a needle size. So we'll see. I may end up doing that this weekend. So just doing another gauge swatch since I have so many scraps. I don't block my gauge swatches. I know that's a recommendation. I have followed the Arnie and Carlos recommendation to not block it. I don't remember the reasoning for it. I can kind of see why you would block it, because usually after you finish your garment, you block it and then you wear it. I guess I want to see what the fabric's like before I block it. This is a canvas bag I got from Viroqua, Wisconsin, from a yarn store there. It's called Utopia, E-W-E, Topia, and it's plastic free. So, which I really appreciated that about that town. It's down near La Crosse, Wisconsin, so kind of near the Mississippi River. So, we have arrived to, you know, at how many minutes? 15 minutes of knitting. Some gardening. Zucchini is finally, I think we had like 5 or 6 zucchinis in the refrigerator. Randy likes to take some for lunch to work, and I had some for breakfast in a stir fry with mushrooms and onion and a couple eggs. And, you know, I grate it to include in stir fries, you know, kind of the bigger ones. Or I have 2 varieties out there. I have, and I'm kind of looking out at my garden right now. I have 2 varieties, the normal smooth skinned green zucchini you see all the time. And then I have another one that's kind of, it has ridges on it. And it's a little bit, the texture's definitely a little bit firmer, more squash-like, I guess. So that one I have been grating because it doesn't cook as, it doesn't cook down as nicely as the garden variety zucchini. Ha ha ha. I have another squash growing out there. I'm not sure what it is. It might be pumpkin, or it could be like just another roundish winter squash. So I'll find out. Lots of green tomatoes. I'm hoping this heat wave helps ripen the tomatoes. So other than that, still harvesting a lot of greens and still planting greens and stuff like that. And beets. So hopefully, I've been trying to protect my beets and my like green beans from the bunnies, because the bunnies love those. And of course, there's always the slug problem. What else is going on? So riding, I went on a nice long trail ride with a friend of mine last Saturday. Went to a potluck with some horse friends. One friend had just returned from a trip to Africa. My camera is fading, so I am going to need to plug it in. Okay, so I've got the camera plugged in, and because the cord is very short, I had to kind of prop it up on a chair. So I hope this is okay. And I can monitor my camera here from my phone. But this is a different view of the dining room. So the picture, no, this side, everything's backwards, is painted by my late grandmother from my dad's side. So I believe she passed away in 1984. So I'm sure she did some painting classes in the 60s and 70s, and that's from where that's from. So the other painting that you saw behind my shoulder or behind my head in the previous segment before I had to charge my camera, my sister painted that. So I do have some talent in my family. I have never tried painting. No, that's not true. Tried painting in 8th grade, and I did a watercolor, and it was fun. But it's kind of not my jam. So, what was I talking about? Oh, I was talking about riding Odin. I had a great trail ride last Saturday, and then went to a potluck. Okay, I think we're back in business again. It's really distracting, and it really changes my train of thought when the camera does what the camera does. So I apologize for that. I'm hoping to have some continuity. I may just, since I can monitor it better from my phone, I may just have my phone up here so I can just make sure that it's still going, and I'm not talking, well, I am talking to myself, but at least maybe it's recording. So I was going to talk a bit about, why I started the podcast in the first place. Part of it was I was really inspired by Knit All the Yarn podcast. So she is a podcaster from Michigan. She's a mom, has a husband. She has 2 school-age kids, and she just had this very simple podcast without much editing or any other sort of embellishment. And I thought, well, I could do that. So I've had a blog for a really long time, and that was kind of my medium. I like to tell stories. I like to write. The blog, what do you call it? Interface or web platform is the word I'm looking for. It was, I don't even remember the name of it now, but they had a very simple format, and then that format was going away, and their upgraded versions were just a little not intuitive form enough for me. I'm not particularly computer savvy, so even though I probably should be, but I'm really not. So that's not my thing. So I decided I would give podcasting a whirl. I figured it would make me accountable on my knitting, and also I really enjoy watching podcasts where I see how other people live their daily lives. I mean, I think everyone has something extraordinary to offer and something interesting to offer. So, and some people do very extraordinary things. I was talking about my friend who just returned from a safari in Africa. So I've never particularly wanted to go to Africa, and I'm really not that much of a traveler anymore, quite honestly. I'd like to travel locally. I like to explore. I like to ride my bike, but I'm pretty happy just being where I am. That doesn't mean that I'm not interested in other places. I'm sometimes interested in other people's points of views of places. I mean, I really liked hearing about the different animals she saw, her encounters with them, and that's enough for me. I like to watch podcasts where people are bicycling across Istanbul, for instance. That's not a place I would ever be interested in bikepacking. I would love to bikepack across the United States eventually, and then maybe take a ship from New York to Great Britain, and then bikepack all over Great Britain. Or bicycle tour is what I should say, because, I guess kind of my retirement view or vision is, bicycle touring and staying in inns and motels and places like that. So all that to say, the reason why my content is what it is, there's not any particular theme. There's not a central theme. This podcast is for people who are interested in knitting and interested in other people's knittings and knitting and how they knit. It's also about horse keeping, my philosophy on training horses. Both my horses are Mustangs that I adopted from the Bureau of Land Management Wild Horse Adoption Program. There's a link to that information in the show notes. Maybe this podcast is for people who share the same philosophy, who maybe have a different philosophy and are interested in other people's views on horse keeping. Or maybe, for people who like horses, have never had an opportunity to either have one or maybe keep one at home. So this podcast can be for you. I'm also gardening. I'm also cooking. I'm also exploring more of a plant-based diet. I mentioned earlier what I had for breakfast. I still eat some animal products like eggs. I try to buy the fancy, expensive, free-range ones. We still eat bacon on the weekends. I still have some meat in my diet, but I'm trying to go toward more plant-based because I think it's healthier for me and healthier for the planet. I just wanted to share that and share that content. One of my other themes is gardening. So if I'm going to list my themes, they are knitting, horses, gardening, exploring plant-based diets, and bicycling, you know, and that's probably enough. So I hope you enjoy this content. I hope you keep returning. I hope you share this content with people who you think might be interested in it. I know the YouTube algorithms favor channels that have one central theme because I think it meets their marketing goals. And there's lots of YouTubers that have more than one channel. Well, I don't. I work full time, and you know, it's it's kind of a challenge for me to do the editing. As little as I do the editing on this, and the reason why I do the editing now, I didn't used to. I just did, you know, took video with my phone and used iMovie on my phone. But Randy gave me a GoPro for my birthday, so that required some editing software. So, you know, you can really go down a rabbit hole with the whole YouTube thing. I'm not trying to make money on it, at least not at this point. Maybe someday after I retire, you know, maybe I'll get good enough that, you know, I'll get some sponsors or it'll be worth paying for. But honestly, it's not worth paying for, at least in my opinion. So, I mean, there's definitely high quality YouTubers out there who spend a lot of time on it that I don't support via Patreon. I mean, I do support a few that offer a lot of content and value. And the example I use over and over again is the Bakery Bears, because you get patterns, you get recipes, you get a lot of patron exclusive things that are high value. So I am going to end that here or there. My trainer just texted and said that she's about 10 minutes late, which is great for me because I'm not sure what time it is and whether I need to get going. So I will catch you next time. Enjoy and happy knitting, and it'll be a couple weeks. Bye now.